Ready for some brutally honest advice? Here's the advice I would give to my 20-year-old self so that I could be better prepared for motherhood way, way, way down the line. If you're anything like me, the thought of having kids in your 20s, even 30s, is gonna stir some fear. Maybe you're thinking, I'm way too young to have kids or even think about having kids, because all you're hearing is from other moms is how much having kids changes your entire life. Then there's the havoc of carrying and actually having your kids and what that does to your body, your emotions, your brain, all the things. And then let's not even get into the cost of raising kids. Having fears and concerns about these things are natural and very normal. Sadly, something a lot of women just don't talk about. So keep watching. I'm going to address 10 things that I would recommend to any 20-year-old woman who's even 1% considering having kids. Okay, so I'm going back into my house. It's just way too hot out here. This is not motherhood advice at all. There's a ton of videos out there that get into that. But wisdom on what I would have done in hindsight in my 20s, now knowing that I would eventually become a mom. And this advice is non-judgmental, okay? Absolutely non-judgmental. And I fully support any woman who wants to have kids or who chooses not to. Here's the advice. Number one, talk to your doctor about your reproductive situation, but approach it from an educational perspective, okay? Just be curious. Here's a few questions you might ask. At what age is it the easiest to get pregnant? When does it get harder and why? If you're on birth control pills, ask your doctor. Well, how soon after I stop should I then start trying to get pregnant? Will my health affect your chances of getting pregnant? So these questions, if you were anything like me when I was 20, you might be closing up like a clam right now. And I don't blame you. It's a lot to think about. But here's the thing. The wisdom that I learned is that you can approach this from a thought experiment perspective and also as entirely for your education purposes. You don't have to do this for anyone else. You don't have to do this because you're being pressured by your partner, by your family, or anything like that. You can do this entirely on your own for your own reasons. Even if you are 1% interested in having a kid, just 1% interested, in my opinion, it's enough. It is enough to be forward thinking about these questions. Talk to your doctor, because if your doctor is anything like mine was, while my doctor was lovely in lots of ways, my doctor approached this to me, like approached my reproductive years and my interest or goals with my reproductive years in a very cold way, in a very clinical way. And I was not open to hearing that. Her first question to me was, "Oh, you're 28 years old. Are you thinking about having kids someday?" And I was like, what? First of all, it came out of nowhere. I was totally blindsided, and it didn't kind of start the conversation, okay? What I would have loved to have heard from my doctor is, "Hey, so you're 28 years old. Do you have any questions about your reproduction system?" Because by 28 years old, there are some things that begin to change for women, and if you're remotely interested in having kids, there might be some things that you might want to consider. Novel idea. Had my doctor approached it with me at any sort of ballpark of that, I probably would have listened better, okay? I probably would have been less defensive. And particularly, maybe if she'd given me some handouts or something to look into, a website or something to look for in my free time, just to kind of look at my options and kind of see what the reality of my situation was. And then pose some leading questions, like, if you're thinking this, then A, B, C, D, whatever. The point is there's options. But if I could do things over again in hindsight, I would have taken a more proactive role in my reproductive education from a much earlier age. And at the end of the day, there is a lot you can do to educate yourself and prepare yourself physically, mentally, emotionally, and financially, and spiritually, that to positively impact your life, whether you choose to have kids or not. Number two, be nice to your friends with kids. In your 20s, it is so easy to forget about, maybe even write off your friends once they have kids. Because at this point in your life, all you want to do is have fun. You want to do what you want to do. And your friends who have kids kind of put a kink in that. They might not be as fun, available, or as interested in doing the things that they had done with you before. The thing I would do differently is would have been a lot more nice to them, a lot more compassionate, reaching out to them to see how they were doing, things like that. It's a good idea to do, even if you're a little bit interested in having kids. Because at the end of the day, if you do decide to have kids, having and maintaining mom friends who also have kids is something so important. And if you already have friends with kids, and keeping those relationships is going to add so much value to your life later on. And you're now offering support to a friend who desperately needs it. Number 3, this might be a little controversial and hard for a lot of people to do, but it's still something I would tell my 20-year-old self to get on the program with. And that is to pay off any credit cards that you have and pay off your car, basically any kind of big loans you have. Get on the program with paying these off now while you're single, while you're young. Because once you have kids, it is very hard to find disposable income to pay these kinds of things off. Number 4, start investing aggressively. I would actually tell this to my teenage self personally, because I started working when I was a teenager. And 20-year-old Elizabeth, listen to this. Invest 20 to 30% of your income. Max out your 401k if you have one with work to get your max contribution, and then put the remaining money you have left to invest in a low cost index fund. You will be so glad you did this later in life. Number 5, say yes to hanging out with your friends. Once you have kids, you will go from having a plethora of free time and endless things to do to almost no time. At this point in my life, as a 44-year-old mother of a young child, I have about 1 to 2 hours a day, if I'm lucky, to myself. And I have a partner that I want to invest time in as well, and obviously my friendships. Yeah, take advantage of this time with your friends. Before you know it, you're going to see each other once a year and have to plan 5-page itineraries just to go away for a long weekend. Also, invest time with your family and your grandparents. Once you have kids, your close connections with your family and specifically like your grandparents and your parents becomes even more valuable, because I feel anyway, like you want to have a close relationship with your family if possible, so your child can have a close relationship with them too. Surprisingly, that for me anyway, that became a very high priority. Your heart will be so full of joy seeing your child with your family and your friends. Number 6, go on the trip, especially a solo trip. Take advantage of all the traveling you can. Once you have kids, traveling becomes virtually impossible, becomes very, very hard. So go on the trip. Number 7, don't rush into responsibility. If you're anything like me and like how I was in my 20s, this was very hard to do. From a very young age, I wanted a car. I wanted my own place to live. I wanted all these responsibilities. Do yourself a favor, and in your 20s, have as few responsibilities as possible. You will be so grateful later on in life. Number 8, enjoy in your time with your partner or being single. Enjoy this time, okay? This is so rare. And if you are in a relationship, once you have children, finding any time to connect with your partner becomes virtually, not impossible, but extremely difficult. Do the best you can to invest the time now, have fun together, go on dates, go on trips, do the things. If you're single, enjoy this time alone. Who you choose to have kids with is one of the most important decisions you can give to your child. And investing the time and getting to know people and slowly date so that you can find the right person who lines up with your values and offers you the things that you're looking for in a relationship. It is hard, but it's possible. These good people are out there. It's just important to do your due diligence, take your time, and really put in the effort to choose the right person to have kids with. Number 9, make your health a priority. This is not something I invested a lot of time in when I was in my 20s. I was more invested in worrying about my weight, worrying about other things than making my health a priority. Because as you get older, you don't heal the same way. Everything physically becomes harder, and your 20s are this magic time when your body is almost invincible. So do everything you can to enjoy that and just protect your body as much as possible. Number 10, So number 10 isn't really about like preparing for motherhood, but it is something I definitely want to say to my 20-year-old self. Use sunblock, especially on your face, chest, and your arms, okay? Just do it. Use it more than you think you need to. Also invest in some solar gloves. You are going to hate all of the sunspots on your arm as you start to age, okay? And they get worse. So those were my 10 bits of wisdom from a 44-year-old new mom to my 20-year-old self. I hope you found this video useful, helpful, hopeful maybe, and possibly even amusing. My purpose for making this video was to empower women to think about this very big, very important life decision in a new way. If you're anything like me, you're completely shrouded in fear at the prospect of having kids. Even if you may want them, you're probably shrouded in fear. And that fear can be crippling, and it can prevent you from just getting ahead of yourself and giving yourself valuable time to process your own feelings about this issue in a way that is productive and thorough to help you fully process it and make a decision that's right for you. I'm just hoping to put a more positive spin on on how to think about and preparing yourself for the possibility of having kids, even if you're only 1% sure or 1% interested in even having kids. There's a more positive way to go about this, and that's what I hope I put out there today. And my hope is that it will help make this decision an easier one to process than it ever was for me. In my 20s, I was terrified at the prospect of having kids. I absolutely didn't want them. And in hindsight, I would go back and I would do the things that I said in this video. I wish where that took me was it took me into my 30s, basically still feeling the same way, not having proper education in my reproductive system and the realities of what I would face in my late 30s when I finally decided I was interested in trying to have kids, okay? Not even interested in having them, just interested in trying, which is what I did. And I was shocked to discover the realities of a late 30-year-old woman having kids. And I'm not even sorry I waited that long. I'm glad I waited that long. It was absolutely the right decision for me. However, I would have really benefited from more of an education earlier on so that I could have been better prepared. Maybe I would have frozen my eggs because in my reality, I actually had to pursue IVF. When I decided to do IVF, I was shocked, first of all, that I had to do it. I was shocked when my first round of IVF failed and I had to do it again. And that was probably likely due to my age and the quality of my eggs. And I would have loved to have been more educated about this earlier on because maybe I would have frozen my eggs, who knows. But what I can tell you is if I could go back and do things differently, I would not have wanted to enter my mid to late 30s with the fear and the concern that I may have waited too long to try to have kids. My name is Elizabeth. This is All These Moms. And if you're interested in similar content related to motherhood and addressing and facing the obstacles and challenge women face in motherhood, please like this video and subscribe. I'll see you in the next video.